Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, my beloved brothers and sisters. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh. Wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina. Wa min sayyiati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala hadiya lahu. Man yudlil fala hadiya lahu. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. All praises are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Lord of all the world, the creator of heaven and earth and all that lies in between. Whomsoever Allah guides, there is none that can lead them astray. And whoever is led astray does so on their own, out of ignorance or what have you. Alhamdulillah, it's always good to be here amongst the brothers and sisters. When we just take a look at where we are, alhamdulillah, this is a good place to be today. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us, and our growth and development took place in stages and degrees. So we have different, you could say, planes of activity that we have to encounter in this life. But we have a direction. And that's the beauty of it. Allah has extended a direction. You can see just by evaluating and reflecting on your own that you have come here through stages of growth and development. Even, I always mentioned it, even if you look at the stages of growth and development that took place with your very being, from a sperm drop to a congealed clot to a fetus lump, then bones covered by flesh, and now here you are. So what is your responsibility here? When we look at some points in history with Ibrahim and Ishmael, when they were putting up the walls to the Kaaba, they asked that a messenger would come who would help, because the people were off the chain. The people were doing everything, you know, you could think of. So they requested that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send a messenger. And alhamdulillah, it took place. And that guidance and direction that the Prophet brought is here for us to give us guidance and direction. So we want to learn about the significance of the creation of man. And there's no doubt that the creation of man was initiated by his creator for a specific purpose. And that purpose is what? to yield our will to the divine laws, to the divine will, and to keep our inclinations in accordance with what Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam brought, which was the Quran. But he was not an ordinary creation, like any other object or any other creation. You can take an animal, pick an animal. An animal lives in a prop world, can't deviate from what he was created to do and be. A cow can't become a jackass, but we have a limited free will, but we can make choices and we can act like a JA, you know. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has his own design and his own plan. And this becomes obvious at the time of creation of man. When the Creator told the angels that he was going to create a vicegerent on the earth, and they replied, will you place therein one who will make mischief therein and shed blood? We are already engaged in celebrating the praises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what the angels were saying. So the reply was, I know that which you know not. And you can read it in the Quran. And after creating Adam and teaching him the names of all things, this is where our responsibility is coming in. He asked the angels, tell me the names of all these things. If you are right in thinking that the appointment of the vicegerent will cause disorder. And they replied, glory be to you. You are alone and free from defect. And we possess only the knowledge which you have given us. You alone are all-knowing and all-wise. So when Adam was told the names of all things, Allah said, did I not tell you that I know those truths about the earth and the heavens which are hidden from you? I know what you disclose and what you hide. So the whole incident of creation of Adam and his appointment of the office of vicegerency, the Khalifa, or Khalifat, or of the earth, and the dialogue of Allah with the angels seems to suggest three things. First, that the new creation, such as man, was going to be entrusted with certain powers. Second, and that he was also going to be given freedom of action, unlike the other creatures of the universe. And third, that he was to be totally independent and autonomous in his sphere of work on the earth, and would be well equipped with knowledge so that he could discover the secrets of the universe through study, research, and experiment, learn to exploit the forces of nature for his benefit, and gain mastery over them according to his own requirements and plans. So obviously, this office of vicegerency had two aspects. And this authority could be abused for spreading evil, but at the same time, it could be also used for better things. Employing the knowledge for the good of humanity. And it's held out both prospects, but its evil potentialities were comparatively lesser than the good. And you know what we used to say, then it's good. We used to say, as long as the good outweighs the bad. And that's true. The words inherit the earth also signify that he will be endowed with specific faculties and abilities to be able to discern between right and wrong, as well as between truth and falsehood, and to be able to find out the principles governing the laws of nature in the universe. Another aspect of vicegerency was that the angels who are innocent were not suitable for this office. It could only be entrusted to man, who was fully conversant and acquainted with the things and affairs of the earth. He knew the nature of things and their consequences and how to use them. And this was proved when he was able to name things the angels were not. And this was clear indication that the mere innocence and piety of the angels was not sufficient qualification for them to be considered fit for this office, which needed a knowledge of things of the earth and the powers of decision and judgment. In other words, that very power and ability of man, which the angels thought would cause disorder and shed blood, was in fact considered a necessary qualification for this office. The intention of the Creator was to create a being endowed with authority and freedom. Freedom to make them choices. Freedom of action. And equipped with knowledge. So we know what is good and what is bad. What is right, what is wrong. We know that. We can make the choice. If we're going to yield our will to that, or to what the prophets brought. And so that he could establish justice and good on the earth by his own free will, in spite of having the power to do opposite, and thereby win the pleasure and goodwill of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Creator. The angels were neither created for this purpose, nor were they fit or qualified to perform this function of man. So it says that the purpose of entrusting this office of vicegerency to man was that the Creator had given certain powers and authority to man in order to see whether he used these powers according to his desire and conducted the affairs of the earth with equity, justice, and goodness, or assumed an independent position of autonomy and acted arrogantly and aggressively without caring about the instructions or pleasure of the Creator. I've learned just into my own stages of development how important it is to hold on to what the prophets brought. To look at that example is very significant. Because there are times when you can get so emotionally hijacked just behind what somebody else is doing that you beat yourself up. I was riding with a young brother, and he had so much to say about how people was driving. I mean, he was calling it, but it was bending him out of shape. He was almost a couple of times did cuss at the way people were driving, you know. And he drives a lot, because that's his occupation. So he's on the road, and he just came in from being out there for a month on the road. So I was just with him for a short period of time because he was helping me to do a job. And in that short period of time, he was coming off on everybody. Oh, they're sitting there, you know, looking at their phone. The light is green, it's been green. Ain't nobody moving. He just went off continuously. So can you imagine being on the road a month and you coming off on the way people are driving? You're clubbing yourself. This is why we have the example. Because we look at the Prophet alayhi salam, his example, and his example can tone us down. If you're striving to yield your will. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala applied to the angels and said, will you place therein one who makes mischief therein and shed blood, while we do celebrate your praises and glorify your holy name? Shows that Allah wanted them to know that there was a great wisdom in the creation of man, which was known only to him, and that they were quite ignorant of it. And it was also implicit in Allah's reply, I know what you know not. That only man was suitable for the office of vicegerency on the earth, and that the angels had not been created for this office. So we're not suitable for this type of work. On the other hand, they were quite fit for the job they were doing in the universe. And it's also implicit in Allah's answer that man's function on the earth would be completely different from that of the angels, entailing not only authority and the power to harness the forces of nature and use them for his benefit, but also to exercise independence, judgment on the basis of knowledge, and freedom of action. So you can straddle the fence. You have 1 foot over here in Islam and 1 foot over here in a condition that is unnatural and not your own. You can do that. That's your choice. But there's almost a guarantee that that foot that you got in a condition that's unnatural and not your own is going to start moving on you like the whispers of Shaitan. And you know what? He said he's seducing all with the firm faith. So this is why we have to increase our iman, continuously yield our will to the divine laws. This is our safeguard. This is our protection. This is our armor in this dunya, where so many things are coming at you, year after year. And on and on and on. So we have to take a look at the concept of power and authority implied in Surah 2. Baqarah in ayat 30 and 33. It shows that man would be free to use his powers and ability and resources in any way he likes. You can do that. And he could use these powers independently without paying any attention without paying any attention to any guidance, and thereby destroying his own self and prevent the real progress of his culture and civilization. On the other hand, he could act in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would like him to do as his vicegerent on earth. And that is in the light of his guidance. And it says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make the Quran easy for you to remember. But who will put forth the effort? And brothers and sisters, I can tell you, just out of my own experience, Allah didn't create you and abandon you. So this is why it's significant to hold on and try to strengthen your relationship with your Lord, because the protection is there. See, we know where we're going. We know that we're not going to be here in this dunya material world forever. So what is the next level? We have a pattern of coming through stages. Just reflect. And you can see the stages of growth and development just by your very presence sitting here today. And in the Quran it says, consider the human self, how it is formed and balanced, the mizan, the balance. and proportionate in accordance with the circumstances in which he has to live its life. And him who inspired, imbued with moral failings, as well as with consciousness of Allah and taqwa. The word fujuraha, moral failings and wrongdoings, and taqwaha, Allah consciousness, is this that man is equally liable to rise to great spiritual heights or to fall into utter immorality. So what are we going to do? What's the best for us to strive for while we're here? One of our brothers said in the past, he said that the main job is to improve the contents of life and moral intelligence for the individual and for the nation. And he says that our brother mentioned last week about the heart. Habits of the heart and mind are the more important possessions to watch over and improve upon. And we need that example. We need the prophet's example to keep us in check. Because when you look at that example, it will tone you down. Because we can go off half-cocked, that's easy. And you can see it in the news every day. People shooting at each other, I mean, like a war zone. Man is equally liable to rise to great spiritual heights or to fall into utter immorality. And it is essential. It's an essential characteristic of human nature as such. In its deepest sense, man's ability to act wrongly is a commitment or commitment to his ability to act rightly. In other words, it is this inherent polarity and tendency which gives to every right choice a value and thus endows man with what? A moral free will. The growth of his consciousness, symbolized by the willful act of disobedience to Allah's command, transforms him from a purely instinctive being into a fully fledged human entity as we know it, a human being capable of discerning between right and wrong, and thus choosing his way of life. In the deeper sense, the allegory of the fall from paradise does describe a retrogressive happening, but rather a new stage of human development. Here we go with the stages. And opening him and opening doors to moral consideration. Excuse me. turn my phone on. Allah makes the soul and gives it order, proportion, and relative perfection in order to adapt it to the particular circumstances in which it has to live in its life. He breathes into it an understanding of what is sin. When he speaks about, he breathes into it. The ruh that was breathed into you. It cannot be set aside by you. You can take all of your sensations, all of your emotions, all of your passions, your desires, your intellectual faculties. These you can hold at arm's length and you can examine them with a conscious and considerate eye. But the ruh that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has breathed into you, you can't separate that. And this is the most precious gift of all to man, the faculty of distinguishing between right and wrong. Allah's goodness is mentioned as the greatest of all. And by these tokens, man should learn that his success, his prosperity, and his salvation depends on himself. There's no, and our position is just to try to make the message publicly clear. You can't say or get upset and bend out of shape because somebody doesn't want to yield their will to what you're saying. And I've heard incidences on in the other direction that this one individual was communicating with a relative, and they were going through some physical complications in their life. So they decided to extend the Quran to the sister that was having the physical complications. She took the Quran and threw it in the corner and said, "Don't be handing me nothing like this no more." So you can't say who. You just make the message clear and keep it moving. Allah made it clear and has extended a direction, a clear direction for us, the continuous lines of prophet. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam, it was sealed. And alhamdulillah that we are here and we can see this because we're still on our journey. We're going to go through this dunya material world. We're not going to stay here. So we're trying to do what we need to do to position ourselves so that we can receive the next step, the next level, or the next step. Inshallah, Jannah. We have Jannah that we can strive and aspire toward. There are so many people All they have is the shiny stuff. This is their goal. You know, the more shiny stuff I got, you know, that makes me the man. I got it going on. You crash, if he has a crash with his car, his brain gets crashed off. The Creator has placed in him, in man, the tendency and inclination to both good and evil. And second, that Allah has made man inherently capable of distinguishing between good and evil. And therefore, the concepts of good and evil are not new to him. He knows by birth that good deeds and evil deeds are not equal and the like. Fujur, immorality, is an evil thing, and taqwa, avoiding evil, a good thing. And you can read in the Quran, in Surah Al-Balad, in these words: have we not given him 2 eyes, a tongue, and 2 lips, and shown him the 2 highways of good and evil? The 2 verses in 90, ayat 8 to 9, refer to the fact that man is given the means of obtaining knowledge and wisdom through observation. We can study things and learn from it. Animals can't do that. In Surah Al-Dar, the same thing is repeated in these words. And it says, we showed him the way, whether to be grateful or disbelieving. Inshallah, we can wake up to this value, this guidance that's sure. This is sure without doubt. It's not a mistake that this is being said. It's not a mistake. Guidance, sure without doubt. In Surah Al-Qayyimah, we find these words: nay, man knows his own self best, even though he may offer many excuses. In other words, man is fully conscious of the concepts of right and wrong and their consequences, and his excuses will not save him from the dire consequences of his evil actions on the day of judgment. Alhamdulillah, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided us here. We can come together here today. And my mouth is closer to my ear, so I'm hearing it first. And alhamdulillah, that I see sisters who are so beautiful. I mean, their condition, physical condition might, be challenging, but they're still coming, alhamdulillah. That is so beautiful to me. That's true. That is the true beauty. Just like when I see my beloved sisters covered, that is good. You see so many young sisters with this hair. I mean, that's their choice. But to me, that is not beauty. The beauty is when I see my beloved sisters covered. They are so beautiful. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to bestow his grace and mercy upon us in our strive toward the next level, Jannah, and may he protect you and your family. Let us ask Allah for forgiveness. I just wanted to mention that in Surah Shams, after the presenting of external and the evidence for the physical world, the sun and the brightness, the moon and its dimness, these are signs, the light of the day and the darkness of the night, and the height of the heavens and the lowness of the earth. Allah reminds man of his own self, telling him that he has given him a body and a mind and such senses, power, and ability as to enable him to perform the functions assigned to him in this world. At the same time, he has endowed him with tendencies, inclinations, and incentives which are quite opposite to each other. But through intuition and inspiration, ilham, man has access to the knowledge of the difference between these two opposing tendencies, that the one of fujur, evil and wrong, and therefore bad, and the other is taqwa, Allah consciousness, and therefore good. And just as the night and the day and the sun and the moon and the earth and the heavens and the male and the female are different from each other, and their results and effects are mutually contradictory, so the aims and objects on which one spends one's energy are different in nature and contradictory in their effects and results. Man himself does not regard good and evil in this world as equal. The words, truly he succeeds who purifies it, and he fails who corrupts and buries it, indicate that the key to success or failure lies in the hands of man himself. Whoever purifies and develops himself succeeds, and whoever corrupts, suppresses, or burdens himself fails. And this is also stated in Surah Al-Allah, in these words. But he will prosper and succeed who purifies and develops himself. And in Surah August, we find these words. It is no blame to you, Muhammad, alayhi salam, if he purifies not or grows not in spiritual understanding. In all these verses, the process of purification or growth is considered to be the act of man himself. Besides this, it is explained on many occasions in the Quran that man is on trial in this world, and that the final results will depend on his own actions. good or bad. In Surah Al-Dar, we read, we created man from a mixed sperm drop to try him, and therefore we made him capable of hearing and seeing. And that's in Surah 76. In Surah Al-Mulk, it emphasizes that this fact is in these words: who created death and life, that he may try which of you is best indeed. In Surah Al-An'am, we find these words: it is he who has made you his vicegerents on earth and raised some of you above others in rank, so that he may test you in what he has given you. So therefore, is no doubt that the performer or the agent of this act is man himself, who is held responsible and accountable for all of his actions on the day of judgment. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika. Kebaraka ismuka wa ta'ala jadduka. La ilaha illa ghayruka. God committee salat.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, ya al-salah, ya al-salah, faqamat as-salah, faqamat as-salah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah.